Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, and welcome to Coffee Moaning, where we have a moan, a groan, and a giggle.
It's
We
true,
try
actually.
to.
All of those things.
Moan, groan, and giggle.
A moan, groan, and a giggle. It's potentially it's quite heavy loading today of subjects. But within them, there will be some brevity and lightness too towards the end. So do stick with us. We've got quite serious topics, but they're really quite thought provoking and important, I think, to discuss.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about this tragic incident of this horse rider who tragically became paralyzed, and she left a note. She took her life through assisted suicide, and she sort of talked in her note of it not being an existence she wanted. And we just wanted to flag this up because this is particularly challenging, and I think a colleague of yours from Luce also had talked about how this was a very difficult message for many people who are perhaps paralysed to hear, and it asks questions about assisted dying. You know, the moral dilemma. We're going to talk about the Kate Garroway story insofar as I haven't watched the documentary, but her documentary and her story really has thrown a light on the plight of carers. And we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about something else, which is death doulas, and death doulas sharing the most common last regrets that people, on their deathbeds have. And I think the positive out of this is to potentially flip that and think about, okay, well, what can we learn from this, and potentially fold into our own lives. And then taking an absolute handbrake turn towards the end, we're going to talk about going braless.
Or maybe we'll do that in the middle.
Or we'll do that in the middle, yeah. I mean, maybe you could take your bra off.
Maybe. We'll see.
I don't know, just to keep things entertaining and exciting. But how is everyone? Did anyone... let's do that water cooler moment. I have to confess, I am absolutely gobsmacked by Married at First Sight. I think I saw possibly the most wholesome 10 minutes of television last night.
Oh, just loved it.
In recent years.
Who's watching it? Just say yes, no. It really was, and why this was particularly wholesome was there's that wonderful intergenerational thing where a dad spoke to a man who wasn't treating his daughter well or well enough, in the way she deserved, and he brought her round. In a nutshell, he brought him round to his way of thinking, but it was done with such grace and humour and aplomb and colour and character that it was like, he's in my head all morning, that guy. I love him.
A lightness of touch. Don't get your tits in a tangle.
Yeah. But what was so great is also in that episode, we have the most horrendously controlling, smarmy, narcissistic git in another couple, not the one that the dad was talking to. And it just leaves you completely open-mouthed at how utterly vile some people are.
I'm wondering whether
how many really revolting muscle men, like ugly. His soul is so ugly, and yet he thinks he's gorgeous, doesn't he, Mark?
He does. I wonder whether his sort of, she doesn't think he's vile. I wonder whether his sort of that aspect of him that isn't particularly pleasant comes from him having his nubbin tightened so tight. I mean,
but the fascinating thing you say, she doesn't think he's horrible. But what I love to watch, and you don't need to be watching this to be involved in this conversation, because everybody will have known somebody like this, witnessed somebody like this, or indeed might be like this themselves. This woman that is with this vile, controlling narcissist is a very strong career woman, independent, has always been the one in control. So it's really important to remember this. People always like to think that the only people that are controlled by narcissistic partners are weaklings. It's just rubbish.
You're making a huge kind of set of assumptions there that if you don't have a career, you're a weakling.
No. I'm not. I'm saying somebody that might only be like reliant on that person for everything, for
Well, no, 'cause-
friends,
yeah.
for family, for career, for finances.
Well, no, because what I'm
And
suggesting,
it's not. You could
Yeah.
you could be totally sorted in your life
Yeah.
and become victim. Thank you for
no,
because I think you're
just
right, it
insofar as you
sounded
can be a
like
very
that.
strong woman or a stay-at-home mum or whatever it is, and not
Exactly.
you know.
I didn't mean that, so thank
Yeah,
you, because
yeah.
that's not what I meant. What I meant was this particular woman has a career, she's financially independent, she's good looking, she's da-da-da. So to the outside world, people would think, oh, she's going to choose somebody that is da-da-da-da. Anyway, outside world. And to watch her just shutting herself up and shutting herself down, and so many, not red flags, just red everything being flashed in front of her, and her just being hurt, being upset, being afraid, and then just going to this like Tory wife acceptance. It's just fascinating, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I feel like we've been here before, because I feel like there was a character exactly like her in the last series who was doing it, and the guy was exactly like him.
Well, except the last
what
woman.
I find particularly sort of astonishing about him is how. Now, look, one thing I have to say about Married at First Sight, the editors need to be a bit careful, because the out of vision audio editing is so blindingly obvious. They're constructing sentences that aren't being said in the order that they're being said. Now, I know why they do this. Brevity of time. They'll probably get those points. It'll probably be said with a lot of interruptions and pauses and deviations. But a lot of the kind of killer comments, watch next time, are happening whilst they're on cutaways, because they're constructing the
They're not
drama.
on the person.
They're constructing the drama. And the only reason I say that is I've noticed it infinitely more in this series than in any other. And a lot of people who are on the show complain about the extent to which what they've said has been controlled and manipulated. Now, on that point, every single cutaway after everyone says something. So I was about to say, I'm amazed by how he always looks so self-preening and highly self-regarding when he's sort of conquered a victory or done something with it. But I have to be brutally honest with you. I'm not entirely certain that when we cut to him at those moments, it's the right moment after what's been said, which is potentially incredibly manipulative.
But when he says muzzle your woman and he says all that, he's saying it out of his own lips and we see him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's but anyway, yeah. So it's just a fascinating watch. I'm finding it, and in this series, they have one of the women in it is the most positive person you have ever come across in your life. And at the beginning, she irritated people, but she is so consistent and authentic and has the greatest, deepest heart, who just believes in people. You just look at her and you think, oh, I want to be more like that. She's such a good person, isn't she?
But her dad, oh my God. If we were talking, her dad provided a cat. Oh, look at the robin just outside. Look, it's come up to the door.
It's
my mate.
time.
The dad provided a man who doesn't have a dad and who in fact had a very horrible dad with some important daddying, which was just lovely. It was a very cherishable moment.
Sometimes the craving for being loved is so strong that the narcissist gets away with everything. Exactly.
Perfectly put.
The craving for the love. And that's beautifully put, because that is actually what we're seeing with this woman. It's like she's going to take anything and everything. It's just scary. It's like watching a slow car crash.
Yeah, really is. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's talk about this story. This is the story of this horse rider. Her name is Caroline March. She left a sort of essentially a suicide note explaining why she didn't want to carry on living after 2 years or so ago having an accident, as I describe, a career-ending injury during a horse riding accident in April 2022. She obviously went into hospital. She managed to recuperate the use of her abdomen. She had sort of, as she says in her note, twitches in her legs that she thought were positive, but her life never, she felt her life never returned and couldn't come close to where she wanted it to be. She talked about how she took her hat off to those who could make life work after such an injury, for those who have flourished. But she said that just isn't me. It's not an existence I want. She said, I felt so much love from so many people the last few years. I just wish love could fix it or make it more bearable, but it can't.
She also said that she'd always believed in assisted suicide and that she didn't understand, obviously we're paraphrasing, society's obsession with longevity and the need to live for as long as possible. And she quotes philosopher Alan Watts, I'd rather have a short life that is full of what I love doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And yes, I mean, this is an open letter, isn't it? And she asks for people to be mindful and to be, careful about what they say for the sake of her friends and family and all of that. But yes, Sophie Morgan, who I know from Loose Women, who is a formidable person. She totally blows my mind on what she's gone through, what she's, over the years and the life that she's built. And she just found this very, very upsetting. She doesn't go into the details. She doesn't go into whether, she's not judging this woman. But she said she was really taken aback by how upset she was by this. And the suggestion being that...
She was 31.
Yeah. That she's fearful for people that might newly have a spinal injury, and you would think, you might be thinking along the same lines, and that she wanted to give a message of hope, and that she has experienced everything that life has had to offer. She's been very, very low in the past, but she's, whether that's, a zest for life, passion, she's traveled, she's done this, she's done that. And so I think she felt very passionately about showing the other side. It's interesting, isn't it? Because what's her name? The horse rider?
Caroline March.
Caroline says that she'd always been an advocate of assisted suicide. And as I am, completely, 100% for assisted suicide. In fact, I'd be quite happy to join a campaign on assisted suicide. But she just made me just think for a moment on that when she said that. Because could it be that if we have it in our head, and I'm not talking about her, I know nothing about her, I'm just thinking about trying to think of it from the other side of the argument with suicide, that if we have that, do we not push through in some situations where we might be able to? I don't know.
Well, I
don't know. It just made me think.
Well, yeah. One of the things that I think is really complicated about this is that you can't. I feel it's dangerous to talk. Everyone's set of circumstances is specific to them.
Exactly. That's why we're not talking about the details.
And I think you're
of
absolutely right. I think you're right insofar as it throws an absolute spotlight over really. Let's park the paraplegic aspect to the side. You can live a hugely fulsome, wholesome,
as Sophie does.
Complicated, embellished life. In a different way, admittedly, after any diagnosis, injury, what have you. There, for the grace of God, haven't had to go through it, but one would hope and feel that with all the right support and what have you, you can get to a place which is different but life affirming. But, and I do think it's a big but, I think you're right, this complicated, the reason this snagged me as a story was I thought, I remember there being a discussion or a debate or a topic coming up a few years ago around mental health
and assisted suicide.
Yeah, and
we talked about it on here, didn't we?
When I had my darkest point, and I had been offered an easy way out,
what you would have seen as an easy way out.
Well, a way without pain and without complication. I think I couldn't say for certain I wouldn't have wanted to choose to take it. I never wanted to kill myself, but there was a point where I didn't want to live. And I think that's an important distinction, because you can feel those moments and how much of feeling that. So, for example, even with this tragic story of this woman, how much of what she was feeling was the consequence of the really bad 18 months in that state, say, but that there could have been, and now we will never know, could there have been another further 18 months of less bad, and then a further 18 months of flourishment, and then
but we will never know. And it may well have been the right thing for her, but we talked about, maybe it was on Loose Women, maybe we didn't talk about it here, because there was a case, wasn't there, of a mother that was going to support her child.
Yeah, look, Faith says, after my accident, the GP told me I should realise it's grief emotions that I'm feeling. Grief for the life I had previously. Absolutely. And
that can happen with so many things. I mean, my friend Dance Your Tits Off, that lots of you know, she was absolutely desperate. She was so depressed. She had PTSD after she had her cancer treatment had finished. And her doctor said, you've just got to grieve for that life. and now you've got to have a different life. And
Yes.
she was like, well, I don't want to have a different life.
Yes.
I want my old life back. And yeah.
Christopher Condell,
Yeah.
you have intimate sort of experience of this, and you're a fabulous source of, I find, constant inspiration.
We were thinking about how you felt.
I can
with this
totally
story.
understand that point and that important distinction of what you've just said, Mark. You see, the thing I think about
How were you left feeling,
Yeah, 'cause-
Christopher? Because Sophie has been really upset. And one of the things, I was watching her stories actually, and one of the things that she said is, again, I'm paraphrasing because I was kind of listening, so I don't want to quote, I'm not quoting her, but the sense that I got was that she was saying that, the idea that people go, oh, if you're in a wheelchair, I can understand it, which if you think about that, for people in a wheelchair, that's devastating. More people's reactions to what this woman had done than what the woman herself had done. So we were wondering, Christopher, how you felt, how it had hit you. Well, and Faith and other people.
Because I'm going to be brutally honest with you, Christopher. You live a life that I just look at agog. I go online every day to look for your next image of you with whatever you're drinking, watching on route to wherever you're going. So, I'm sort of, until you kind of give us leave another comment, Christopher. I mean, the thing I'm trying to stress there is that everything is temporary. Everything is movement. Everything in life is a process of going from one place to another place. And I suppose this does speak to the danger and difficulty of any form of assisted dying when and if you're not in a sort of perennially, if you like, degenerative state. So, for example, I can well imagine for myself thinking that if I knew I had a degenerative disease and it was someone's just shared, Lorna, I hope you don't mind me, you've said my brother-in-law has been diagnosed with Parkinson's for 2 years now. His quality of life is slowly disappearing to something that would really have me considering assisted death. I think that if I saw the obvious trajectory downwards, I think that would be a different situation to, yes, there's a shift in my life or a dramatic change in my life or an adjustment that's huge and that you feel the grief and you experience the grief. But that potentially there is some other way to twist it around. I think then around assisted dying does become quite complicated because how can we say for certain there isn't going to be another moment in the ineffable future where you have come to terms with this and not only come to terms with it, but flourish?
And then people will go to, well, physical pain. Why can, people shouldn't have to go through physical pain. We don't allow, our animals to go through it. But then that completely it disengages from the mental pain because mental pain, when I see Mark in his depression and in his, bad place, the pain to me looks no different than physical pain. It's terrible pain. So it's just so complicated, isn't it? And you can see why we have never got to the place where we allow it.
Christopher Condell's come back. Yeah, the story certainly hit me more than I expected. But I guess for
Sophie
me,
said.
the big thing was trying to get around that next step of knowing I still have a great life to live and have lots to offer.
And I suppose that is the frustration of sadness for people that have managed that. And when they see that somebody didn't think that there was that possibility, it must be so frustrating because you want to go, yes, no, there is. It is hard, but yeah. At this moment, I am still a huge an advocate of assisted dying. I think there's so much suffering that goes on needlessly. But
it does speak to, again, just briefly, just using the parallel of mental health, it does speak to, because more often than not, people will look at you if you've got a mental health crisis and they'll look at the support network, they'll look at everything and go, well, why, you've got everything to live for, you're this, you're that. That doesn't help you. If you're the one who's in the cockpit of your mind and the cockpit of your heart, driving your journey. And as my nan always said, she said, it doesn't matter how much you're with people, you come in on your own, you go on your own, you are on your own, even though you can be surrounded, you are ostensibly on your own at all times. And I think,
and actually trying to get somebody that's in depression to be grateful, to have gratitude, to look at what's good, that doesn't work. It doesn't work for somebody that's in a deep dark place because they don't, in my experience, they don't feel that they are valuable enough for it, so.
Faith Goodman, thank you for mentioning. One of the family guests called Freya is going to Dignitas this week. I know she has been posting about this, and sometimes in these live chats, it never seems the right place to be able to communicate. But Senator Freya, if you're here, sending you our love. Okay, let's turn to Kate Garroway, who, again, for whom this topic probably reared its ugly head on occasions for her and her family. Now, this is the third documentary in a series of documentaries went out last night. We weren't able to watch it last night, but we've been catching up with clips and reading articles around it. And of course, I have friends that work with Kate, and I've just been in awe of her throughout this, the exhaustion, getting up at 2:30 in the morning, and getting to work and kids and all of this. Now, I think that these documentaries have been hugely powerful and important. And I know some people get so annoyed. There's been some comments, oh, well, there's millions of carers. Now it takes a celebrity and everyone's listening. Can I just pause on that point? Because when you say that, I just want to pause on that, because people do say, oh, there's all this and there's one. That if you've got an aggravated attitude to celebrity, which a lot of people do and a lot of us have, it's like, oh, why why don't we just look at this as one of the positives, which is celebrity can throw a spotlight or a much needed spotlight on something that doesn't often get attention. So then let's park all of that nastiness.
Because for all the silliness and the showbiz silliness, Kate's has been living a nightmare. But when somebody from showbiz does something to highlight something, that's because that they know that's the thing that is meaningful for their job, because they can also get people to listen where they may not listen.
Mandy Bent, she has a voice, she's using it for good.
Yeah, exactly. She could have not said a single thing. Do you really think she wanted to make a documentary in the middle of all this?
Just get off your hobby horse.
But no, it's just some comments that we saw that were just so awful. But anyway, so I had no idea that once you leave the hospital, the care is up to you
entirely. You don't get any you don't get any supported care at all.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about the details. I think but what I know is that this has put her into financial ruin, because he needs 24 hours care, and don't forget, she does a morning show, she does a radio show, she's got to pay the mortgage, she's got to do everything, look after the kids, get kids. So if you are working, you are in dire straits with somebody with so many needs. And the thing is, he was deemed as not having enough needs. That means that there isn't a single person in the world, because if you look back on all that we've heard about what Derek's needs actually were over the last couple of years, it's like, well, how bad do you have to be?
Jennifer Winter says you should have a social worker who comes and does an assessment in the hospital to see if they need any social care after they leave. Not sure if this happened.
Well, I'm sure
Derek.
It will have done.
I think in broadest brushstrokes, it spoke to and throws a spotlight over the prohibitive cost and the remarkable lack of support potentially for so many people, and the vast numbers of people in the country who are carers and helpers. And we're becoming that, what they call the squeeze the middle generation, where you've got your kids not leaving home, but you've got your kids at the top end, at one end, and you've got your parents at the other end. I'm looking at mum. Hope you don't mind me talking about it in the third person. I look at my mum as I'm sort of escorting her around, and you're thinking, how do you care for people? And of course, it's shocking and it's heartbreaking.
It's all the child carers. Judy Love talks, sometimes about that. And I'd love to hear more about that from her. But she was a child carer, and some children, they have to do absolutely everything for their parents. Like before they come home at lunchtime. It's just a shocking state of affairs. What is going on in this fucking country?
It's appalling.
It is just appalling. All the fight that we're having at the moment for Hannah and trying to get this drug, and all the stuff that we're finding out, that all the little moves and shakes that go on behind the scenes to make sure they don't have to pay for this drug and that drug. It's just shocking.
It's partly big pharma. It's partly this sort of insidious privatisation of the NHS from within. Stuart G, my dad had a massive stroke at 57. He died at 73. God. My mum and us did the main of caring for him, but he was quite independent. Stuart,
57.
Ellen, it's a point system and a ridiculous system on who gets care. It's horrendous
Well,
to
this
navigate.
is it, isn't it? I mean, and this is what I think, because we didn't actually see the documentary that I'm gathering. You're having to do all this admin and all this like fighting for your loved one at the same time as dealing with the whole of your rest of your life. Sorry to bring it up again, but exactly like my friend Hannah at the moment, you know, she is in dire need of this medication, and the amount of fight and phone calls and emails and everything that she's having to do and campaigning, as well as just trying to stay alive. It's brutal.
Hi Tori, I can't get carer for Leo, even having breast cancer. Insane.
I know, Tori. I mean, we think of you, you know, and we think of all the people that we know and that's struggling against the system, and it's just petrifying.
Yeah.
I find it petrifying. I thought that the NHS looked after you when you were really sick, whatever. Obviously not brilliantly all the time, but I thought there was something that went on.
Yeah. Well, obviously, as they say, there's a sort of point system, and it's tricky to navigate. So
it's things like nappies, and nappies have to like if you're you know, an adult person that you look after, the fight that you have to get the nappies, even things like that. It's just. I can't even imagine how much adult nappies cost when you think about how much babies' nappies cost. I mean, just that in itself could take food out of people's mouths, couldn't it?
Yeah, this really resonates. You know, Francesca Bastos, one of my best friends, opera singer, had a massive stroke at 26, lost mobility and speech, isn't back 10 years later, but her country helped. She's from Finland.
What country would we move to?
Tracy Street. I'm a carer for my dad. Trying to get help is stressful and soul destroying.
Sweetheart, exactly. Yeah. And this is the point, whether we like it or not, somebody famous. And let's not forget, Kate is actually going through this, and she's lost her husband that she loved very dearly. So it's not like she's just wafting in a gown. But even if she was, the fact that we're all talking about it and finding out about it is sorry.
Creatorholic. I'm having to phone the hospital every week to chase up an important letter to be sent to my GP. Been a month now, been written, just hasn't been ticked off the hospital by the hospital doctor. Michelle Nye. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Ian. I have a voice with my illness, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah,
very good point.
It's wonderful to have somebody that can be the voice.
Yeah, absolutely. You can say. I mean, some people just can't. They can't speak for themselves.
No, Rita, I don't think it's Finland. I think it's Denmark.
Yeah,
Denmark's the happiest.
I think Denmark is the happiest
because they've all got hobbies.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, moving from this, we want to talk about how can we turn the sort of end of days into a positive. And this is a story.
I thought we were going to do bras.
I think we should save the bras as a kind of, let's go out on a flurry, because I think coming back from bras today is quite hard. So this is, we're obsessed and have been obsessed for years with death doulas. I've been talking to them for years, obviously trying to make a
Mark
film.
had a really long, interesting conversation. Tell them a bit about them.
And she was one of the leading death doulas in the country, and we were looking to make a film, which obviously is an incredibly sensitive and difficult process to kind of get close to, where we sort of followed the process of her essentially midwifing or midwifery, escorting someone from this life to the next. But of course, most of their work isn't just with the person in question; it's also with the family, and they are a great sort of. If all the family members and the person dying are the tiles, then the death doula is the grout that sort of sits between them all and keeps them all kind of in conjunction with each other.
You know, when you have a birth doula, lots of people actually don't know what a doula is. It's like somebody.
What's the difference between a doula and a midwife?
Oh, well, a doula is all there for the woman. She looks after the woman, and she's not medical. It's not a medical thing.
Well, and I think potentially a death doula for the same reasons isn't there just to administer drugs. This is spiritual, emotional, support, holistic.
So a bit like the best grandmother or the best auntie in the world kind of thing. I know is a birth doula. So I'm imagining a death doula is.
But I always remember her saying one of the most beautiful things. This particular woman, I don't know if she still practices, but this is a piece following three others who I think we should talk to. She talked about the fact that it's a huge privilege. But also that the act of escorting and helping and holding and being there for them, she found such a sort of she liked to sort of liken it to the fact that there is one, often with grandparents, there is one last gift that grandparents can. She said she saw the most meaningful connections between grandparents who passed away and their grandchildren. She said they managed to in the best case scenarios almost remove the fear of mortality
Of
in
death.
later age, because it became a
Yes.
sort of gift to them, but which is lovely. But anyway, this is a piece in the Independent about 3 death doulas who talk about the most common regrets they hear of or come up against in someone's sort of final hours or final days. And it's just quite a revealing list for us to reflect on what we accept in our lives now and how we could potentially maybe preemptively not get to our deathbed thinking, oh, I didn't do these things. Top of the list, one of the death doulas says, is staying in unhappy and sexless relationships. She says, I often hear people say that they wish they'd left either unfulfilling or unhappy relationships much sooner. A lot of people have regrets about spending a large part of their life in situations they didn't feel true to themselves or have any fulfillment. She said, when we're confronting death, we feel a lack of intimacy and closeness, acutely, including sexual intimacy. I thought that was just, the amount of relationships.
What's that line on, what did you say?
As humans, we look for intimacy, and that doesn't go away because we're dying. If anything, it increases because people are aware they have a limited time left and they want to have that connection with other people.
But this line really interests me as well. Life, a lot of people have regrets about spending a large part of their life in situations that didn't feel true to themselves or have any fulfillment. So outside of relationships, and when I was talking to you the other day about in yoga, the thing, because I've done it consistently now, the thing that I'm really hearing that I couldn't hear at the beginning was about going back to your authentic self. Finding your authentic self. But it's very, very scary for me when I think about that, because I think about the situations that I don't want to be in. And then I think I can't untangle myself from them because it's so much of my life. And then I think, oh God, but does that mean I've got to be this part of me, not be what I want to be for the rest of my life? It's very difficult. It's very difficult to actually allow yourself to go to what you authentically want. This is outside of, new house, car, holidays. This is about in your soul. So I like that. I like that. That's what people get to. Did I have the authentic me here?
Sorry, Joy Clark, I didn't realise the actress Riley Keough became a death doula after her brother took his own life. We talk about birth but never death. Wow, I didn't know she did that. Riley Keough is obviously an actress. She's a fabulous director. She made a film called War Pony, and is obviously, I always hate saying this when someone's related to someone, but if you don't know who she is, she's the granddaughter of Elvis Presley.
I've always wanted to be a birth doula, and I may still do that. That may be still what I do in my future.
Another one on the list is not downsizing or decluttering. This is really interesting. We all know we're going to die, but we just put it to the side, even with a terminal diagnosis. When patients are told the treatment's going to stop, that lack of preparation hits them, she says, getting a will in place, transferring health insurance, discussing their wishes, but also dealing with their things, their home, the stuff that children will have to pick up and deal with. And, you often hear in sort of Buddhist and sort of meditative and sort of retreat, I always remember my friend who went into retreat having to kind of forego all physical things. And I could see he seemed so liberated. I was ecstatic because he offered me to look after his record collection. And that was exciting. But
it's funny because I'm in a different place, because I'm having all sorts of weird thoughts because I'm 60 this year, but where I just want to make our home more of a home, more cozy, because we're always
more
full on.
Womb-like.
Yes.
A womb of your own.
Yes.
And just, I'm going to run through the final ones here. Being in hospital instead of at home is a common one. People don't realise they have choices. A little bit like homeschooling, a little bit like home birthing. Funny that, isn't it? Home dying.
So hang on, what they're saying, that people
often don't realise they have choices. Though for some people, hospital care is essential, this doula says it is always worth asking and look into the ways their loved ones could die at home. So you could ask to go home in those final... Not being prepared, both emotionally and sort of... carers can claim immediate government grants to care for someone who is dying. Well, this speaks to Kate Garroway.
Is
not
that
always.
Actually true?
Not always. Not being able to say goodbye to friends. When a person's dying, they tend to want to surround themselves with the things and people they love most. But so often they are lonely. A lot of people avoid visiting people when they get a terminal diagnosis because they worry they don't know what to say.
Just say it and maybe make the mistake.
And they say, God almighty, this is distressing. But this doula says, I actually hear a lot of upset from the people who are dying, saying that they feel like their friends have gone quiet or disappeared, that they feel lonely and that's needlessly lonely because at the funeral there are lots of people there.
No, don't be afraid.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's face it. If they're bravely facing the end of days, then we can bravely be there for them. Not saying how you really felt. Amanda Waring, a death doula, says that the biggest regret she comes across is people who feel they didn't heal their relationships or speak frankly. Regret stems from a lack of honesty. This is true even for exceptionally difficult conversations where someone has wronged the other, and the only catharsis is if you bring it into the open, and it takes a lot of courage. Yes. Being of service on your deathbed, I imagine. That's another thing, being of service on your deathbed. Wow. Okay, well, briefly, bras. This is a story regarding a woman who had to defend.
So let me tell the story.
Okay, so I didn't know you did.
So you're sharing a flat with somebody, right? And that person is a really good friend of yours, okay? And you've got on brilliantly, and then your friend gets a boyfriend, and it's all very lovely. But after a little while of the boyfriend settling in for most of the evenings, your friend comes to you and says, listen, would you mind awfully putting your bra on in the evening because it's a bit distracting for my boyfriend? This woman thinks, this is on Reddit, I think, well, I've been at work all day, I've gone to the gym, I've had my shower, I want to relax.
You're at home.
Why should I have to put my bra on? Now, I was sitting there all confused about this morning, and I thought, did we talk about this before on here? And I was confused. And then somebody helped me not be confused, and I've just got confused again.
Well, take your bra off and let's have a chat about it. I think we need to kind of understand what we're talking about.
It's like I said on Instagram, I said, I tried to go to my deep feminist self, and I'm sure we've spoken about this before. Somebody will remind me, but I've slipped back to the thing is, I wouldn't, like, if I was sharing a flat with my friend's boyfriend and my boobs like swinging, I wouldn't, because I would feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Now, myself as a woman, if I see somebody's boobs, I can't help. They're great to look at, aren't they? Whatever size, whatever shape, I am drawn constantly to look at them. I can't help myself. I just can't.
Yeah, no, well, I'm pleased you said that, because I want to ask a bit of a tricky question as a man.
Right.
You found them amazing to look at.
I really do.
In a non-sexual predatory
way.
Is it all right for a man to also go, wow,
well,
without it being...
A lot of the comments
as Aaron says, ditch the boyfriend, he's not capable of controlling his eyes.
But I can't control my eyes. That's why I can't sit in judgment of it. Do you know what I mean? And I am not... It's not an attraction. They are... Right, okay. Let's shift this round. So, a boyfriend is staying every night.
Yes.
And he's wearing very loose pajamas.
And his balls out.
And his penis is moving around quite a bit.
What, of its own accord? Or
just as he walks around and stuff.
But but honestly, with a man, if it was moving of its own accord, that's something different.
Right. But are we not, as humans, inextricably drawn to look at these body parts that move?
Would you look at the penis?
Mark, this isn't going to become about you and penises.
That's not about me,
right?
It's about someone else's penis.
I'm just
Mine doesn't
saying,
move of its own accord.
Are they equal? Are both things equal? So a woman or a gay man or whoever, thinks of a penis as a sexual thing, are they as wrong? Should they be averting their eyes? Because I wouldn't be able to avert my eyes on either.
I need to make a point about this, which is really difficult for a sort of rehabilitated, trying to be right on, respectful man. When a woman, I've been in many situations where a woman will be talking to me and she has a remarkable cleavage that's like pushed up, is disproportionately higher than it should be, and is right under her chin. And I actively do everything in my power not to look because I'm being salacious, but it's actually literally physically impossible not to look at them. And you feel like you've got to keep your eyes up to avoid them. Now, that for me makes it quite difficult. I think sitting in your home and a boyfriend comes into it and you're in chilled, relaxed pajama vibes, it's his problem and your friend's problem, not yours. You should have to do nothing. But I think going out with the problem...
But I think that if you totally think that you're... Look, we don't know. The guy might not have said anything. The girlfriend might have just said it. We don't know.
Predicting that he was looking.
But if if I had say I was sharing a flat with my friend and her boyfriend every night with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend every night decides to come home from work, he's had a hard day, has a shower, puts his baggy pajamas on, and his penis moves around. He gets up to get a cup of tea, comes back, it bounces a bit. I'm going to feel uncomfortable because I don't want to look at his penis. I don't want anything to do with his penis, but I will end up looking at it. And I think that it's the same thing with breasts, but I'm perfectly prepared to be told that I have been conditioned into thinking.
I think we like to pretend that there isn't a physical aspect to this that's very boring, which is the chest.
Just looking at them.
Well, no, but the chest is nearer the head. And we engage with the head, not with the legs, when we're relating to people. So a man's crutch is less in your eye line.
No, don't say that, because, Mark, you don't know what the eye line is. If it's bouncing around, all eye lines are off.
Hang on a minute. It depends. If you're standing talking to someone...
No, I'm not going to make this an eye line. No,
you have
because
to
if you're there,
look down.
If you're standing there, okay, if I'm talking to my friend's boyfriend and I go like that, that's something different. But if he's coming in because he's had a shower and he's taken everything off and he's just walking past and getting himself a cup of tea, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, that's his penis.
Yeah, but if you're all sat on the sofa in the round, I'm thinking back to my kind of, you know, when you're in digs days, often you're all kind of sloped on a sofa and you're lounging and you're all this. Bottom bits and legs are often hidden and shrouded and kind of, tucked up because you're kneeling, or boobs are always out, regardless of what your position is. Boobs are always out in a way that penises just aren't. And boobs move in a way that penises just don't, unless you're aroused.
Mark, you don't know everybody's penis. Some penises go like that.
Like what?
But anyway, what do you think?
Like that.
Can we read out some comments?
Zoe Agnew, tight bulges are always flying around. Sandy, it would probably make me giggle and I tell him to put it away. This is about him. Brett Wiener, that is incredible.
But interesting, sorry, Brett. You'll tell him to put it away.
Yes.
Right, so we've got to be...
Erin's good on this.
I'm sure it was Erin that convinced me last time.
Breasts are not sexual organs, Nads. It's not an equivalent comparison. A penis is a primary sex organ only for sex.
Well, and weeing.
Hang on, and also measuring and sort of, I don't know, doing strange things with smoking cigarettes when we were young.
I agree with all of that, Erin, but I'm just saying they are also a beautiful thing, aren't they?
They are.
And they do move around.
They do.
And that is just as one's eyes are inextricably drawn. Then you feel a bit embarrassed. Then you feel a bit uncomfortable. And so I'm just thinking that it could cause a little bit of...
Let's not beat around the bush, no pun intended, but they are infinitely more attractive than a penis.
Well, exactly.
I mean, and I have to confess, as my English A-level teacher proved to us spotty prepubescent teenagers, that when you show a photograph of a half scantily clad woman rather than a naked woman, it's actually more erotic. I hate to say it, if I'm speaking to the uncaveated man, I love a pair of boobs with no bra on under a top.
Hannah says, who thinks the boyfriend didn't say anything and the flatmate just insecure about him?
Okay.
What do you love? A braless top?
No, I didn't say that.
What did you say?
There's nothing more arousing, potentially, than a set of boobs under a top.
Well, exactly.
Who believes the boyfriend was like this? Watching, so you're all watching telly. You're the telly, and we're all watching telly. You be the woman with the boobs, sort of. Take your bra off, maybe, just to kind of really. No, okay. And this, who thinks he was like this? You're watching telly,
and the girlfriend didn't like.
Yeah, no, hang on.
No, they see that's wrong.
Right.
But if she's moving around.
Now move around. So now move around. Now move around. I'm watching telly, and I'm watching telly. Now move around as if you've got no bra on.
No, but the point is, I think you can feel the discomfort. Like if Mark suddenly had a friend staying here, would I really jump around
with a bra, without a bra on? Well, sometimes when you've had a bit to drink, you do all sorts of weird things, don't you?
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway,
well, we're summing up now. We've got to go.
I just think that men and women, we're all drawn to look at bouncing parts. And it doesn't mean you're a pervert. It doesn't. It's just that
Jackie Vellino, Mark's loving this subject.
I know, he's so happy.
I'm not.
You are, Mark.
I'm not.
Mark, this is the first half smile you've had in days.
Can I put my pajamas on and bounce around? That's what I want to know. Who wants to see something really? Who wants to see something really sweet? A raccoon was filmed passing down the back alley of a house. What are you looking at?
What's the time?
Yeah, 11:36.
Right.
Yeah. A raccoon. Yeah, we're leaving. A raccoon was seen passing the back entrance of a house, and it did this. Watch. Walks in this. It's an acrobatic raccoon.
Oh my God.
There you go. That was just for that was an and finally. All right, guys.
Oh, look, it's Finley. He's come.
Sending you lots of love. Guys, have a lovely day. See you soon. Something